another inspiring episode of The Teacher's Lounge, where every voice echoes the journey of an educator. Today, we are joined by a name that resonates deeply across the educational landscape of Jamshedpur and beyond, Mrs. Puneeta Chouhan, a powerhouse of passion, purpose, and progressive thinking. With over 40 years in education, Mrs. Chouhan has worn many hats: teacher, principal, assessor, and now a director. But at the heart of each role lies her enduring love for students and learning. She's been awarded by Tata Motors, the British Council, the Lions Club, and the Telegraph. Of course, I should mention about the Dr. J.G. Irani Award for Excellence in Education, among others. But it's a humble philosophy that truly sets her apart. Stoke curiosity, build hope, and keep them laughing as they learn. Mrs. Chouhan, welcome to the Teacher's Lounge.
I'm delighted to be on the show, Indrani, and watching the way you progress from being a teacher yourself to being a principal and then going on to do your doctorate and progressing so well into your creative field has been such a delight. I am honored to be on your show, and I look forward to this wonderful and invigorating discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and welcome once again. So now we move on to the first segment, that is 5 exploratory questions. So, Puneeta, your journey in education spans over 4 rich decades, starting in the classroom, going into the principal's office, and now leading as a director of a school. So that's more than just a change of designation. It's a shift in the perspective, responsibility, and influence. That's like a lifetime of shaping minds, building futures, and wearing many invisible hats. But before the accolades and leadership, I want to take you back to the start. So the first question is, what was the very first spark 4 decades ago that made you feel teaching wasn't just a role, but your true calling, your "this is where I belong" moment?
So, I have always wanted to communicate, and to communicate with children
Mhm.
was going to make a lot of difference to me personally, because I feel very strongly connected with students. I see them as the future, and I feel that they need the right kind of food, which I had a strong passion to give. So, if I had not been a communicator in a classroom, I would probably be a communicator in the sector of journalism, in the print media. That would have been my second choice. But my first choice was the desire to connect with students in a classroom, to be able to see a lot of things to them the way I wanted, because I just loved communicating with students. So, and I do have this strong rapport even now with children. So, children are very special to me, and communicating with them, sharing with them what I know, and helping them to overcome their crisis and helping them to reshape their personalities is a passion for me.
Wonderful. So let me ask you, how has that role switch from a teacher to a principal and now a director shaped your understanding of what it means to be an educator?
Right. So I think it was something like an evolution.
Mhm.
When I started as a teacher, it helped me to come directly in touch with the students on a
Ah,
day-to-day basis.
right.
It was such fun. I remember my first class.
Mhm.
I remember, uh, I remember how the students put me to a test in the first class. You know how smart these students.
Yeah, they are.
So yes, and I remember the first time I entered into a class 10 room, I was barely a few years older than them, because they were in 10 and I had just graduated. So it was a matter of 4 or 5 years. the
Yeah.
difference between their age and mine. So they didn't think that I would be able to do much. So a very smart guy walked up to the blackboard and put up a word and said, Madam, this is a word we don't understand. Can you please explain it? And he thought he had foxed me completely. The word was malapropism.
Okay.
Now he could have been any word. There's so much in the dictionary that you don't know,
Of
but
course.
this word I happened to know. So, uh, so I said okay. I asked him to go back, and not only did I explain what the word meant, I explained the context, I explained from where the word had originated, and explained everything to him, which was beyond his expectations.
Mhm.
And then, when he felt that he was foxed, I told him, dear student, remember, if I was not a few steps ahead of you, I would have been in your place and you would have been here. So he said, yes, ma'am. And then I said, okay, now let's reverse the roles. I gave him a set of 10 such words and I asked him, how many you can answer. So it was a very nice and amicable way of understanding,
Yes.
how to place each other in the classroom with all the other students watching. And it was a moment where they managed to have faith in me, and I managed to be amicable with them without any stress or tension.
Right.
So that's how my teaching career began.
Wonderful. That's so interesting, Punita. So now, if I may ask you, what's that one thread of connection that stayed constant across these three roles? I'm curious.
What I learned in the classroom with my close contact with the students helped me to make decisions as an administrator better. I had a better empathy with the children. I could understand their point of view. I could understand how I could do things in a way that we don't impose ourselves on the children,
Right.
but we understand how they feel and take them along and make them understand our viewpoint. I
Yep.
felt if I had directly become a principal, I would have missed that step. I
Yeah.
understood their needs better. I understood my peers in the staff room better. So
Mm.
I was better able to understand teachers. I was better able to understand students. And that insight helped me to be a better administrator. And because I had been an administrator for so many years, when I came to the position of making policies as director,
Mhm.
I can better now understand how a school functions because I've
Yes.
made it function myself.
Yes.
And by being connected with the times, when I am able to make the right kind of policies as a director, when I
Yeah.
help to plan the school's growth, I'm able to look at things in every dimension. So it is important to start as at the bottom, and I don't think teachers are at the bottom, but at least in the rank where I started, it was
Yeah.
important to start there and then
Yes.
to grow into the more mature roles. I
Yes.
felt it was my advantage.
Right. Wonderful. And I do agree to what you said because my journey has been something similar, starting with a teacher and then moving on to becoming a principal. And then I became a researcher and then a vice president of a university. And since I was in the field of education, I do kind of agree to all that you said. That kind of that understanding and maturity comes when you kind of move from one role to a role higher. That's so good. So along this path, I'm sure there were moments that didn't go by the book, right? There may have been times when the classroom caught you off guard. Now, you did mention one just now, like when you started your journey as a teacher. But then apart from that, can you take us to one such day when a challenge arrived unannounced and taught you something no training ever could?
I think I would like to take you to my role as a principal
Mm-hmm.
when there were, in a place like Jamshedpur, though we have such wonderful schools and so many in number, admissions are always something that they bother the principals a lot because there are more takers, there are more people asking than the number of seats you can offer. So
Yes.
one of the most challenging times was when one of the leaders walked into my office uh, with his full entourage of not very friendly people, all in very in a state of rage and anger, and walking into the office, banging at my table,
Oh my.
and making threats, even threatening me to, step out of school and saying that I will, your car and you will disappear from the face of the earth and nobody will get to know, that kind of a threat coming up. So that was indeed a very, very, and with so many people in the office along with him who were repeating similar words, um, it was definitely a very, very, intimidating kind of an atmosphere that was being built up. And I told them that I'm coming when I'm talking to you nicely. Why don't you respond nicely too? And this is no way to talk like to a lady. You are so many men. Please let's uh, let's understand that there are certain codes of decorum and behavior. So when I'm ready to talk to you nicely, please do the same. Acknowledge the same. So this person, not in a very gentlemanly way, says, Madam, you think you are a lady? You are equal to 10 men. Later, I took it as a compliment.
Compliment.
But at that,
Did you
but
thank
at
him?
that moment,
Did you thank him?
at that moment, I was more concerned about, the whole school was running, and how he was trying to build an atmosphere of threat around the school only for an admission. But I told him that this was not the way to do it. However, he was very, very stormy in his behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my time, kept my cool, and tried to deal with him as quietly as I could. And I said I would look at the request that he was ready to make. And though the entourage left with with a lot of fanfare and with a lot of feeling of victory, that they thought they had created a scene in the school. The lesson I drew from this is that come what may, we have to keep our cool, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And as long as we can keep our grace and dignity, and we can remain firm, nobody, no force on earth can misbehave with us. So
Mm.
it was a personal lesson. It was a frightening one because I had about 50 people in the room. There were some people who were even carrying guns and things like that.
Oh my
And
goodness.
there was a threat directly to my face. But yes, it was a moment where I was caught off guard. I was not expecting this kind of a behavior from anybody in Jamshedpur. However, we dealt with it, and I'm glad I could learn a few lessons on leadership through that experience.
So now every teacher, as such, eventually finds their rhythm through tiny practices, that is, the teaching methods or maybe rituals that end up making a big impact in the classroom or maybe in the school. So since you were a teacher, a principal and now a director, but then I know you taught when you were a principal. So the school you led as a principal in Jamshedpur, I know, was regarded as one of the best, right? So whether it was board results or any literary inter-school event at the regional or national level, the school consistently secured top positions. So I would love to know about one of your personal teaching habits, or perhaps a best practice that changed the way your students learned or the way you taught, and that had a significant impact on the school as a whole.
Indrani, a lot of people talk about creativity in schools. They talk about, I have seen people talking about how, creative practices need to be introduced. But my focus was more on how to make children more creative. But there is a lot of creativity in their minds. We
Mm,
don't give them, sometimes teachers are very, very fixed in what they expect from the children.
mm,
And they do not allow the children the wings to fly.
mm,
Now, we, in all our meetings with the teachers, we tried to, I tried to bring about this feeling that children have this creative energy and it can come from anywhere. Even those people who we do not expect, given an opportunity, can really soar. So, teaching practices, we had so many such meetings. And I would like to definitely talk about one event which we conducted to promote creative thought, creative thinking, which was a, a literary writing fest. It was an internal, event wherein we created a hall where we had lots of triggers for creative writing in the form of a starter. What could be the different ways of starting? What could be the different ways of concluding? What could be the different situations in a story? What could be the different characteristics? What could be the different words you might want to use? So we made multiple such posters and we put them all over the room very beautifully. We brought in a lot of greenery. We
Mm.
put on very soft music. We kept a lot of dictionaries. And we told the children, few of them at a time, you go explore the room, and there is this writing material. You sit down, and inspired by what you see, now you come out with something that you can write. So it is we have neither identified the story theme, nor have we told them. We've just given them a whole lot of starting lines. We've given them a whole lot of situations. We've given them a whole lot of concluding lines and a lot of words that could be used. For example, the smoking chimney,
Mm.
the fading footsteps. So lots of phrases and a bag full of ideas. And it is literally a bag full of ideas. It is a bag and lots of phrases written on little bits and dropped there. So if a student gets stopped on a way, or he feels that now he cannot progress any further, he goes and picks up a chit from there, and whatever he sees there, suppose he sees the words the smoking chimney, so now wherever he's stuck, he connects with the smoking chimney, he brings the smoking chimney into it and continues with the story.
Yeah.
So we've given you all the triggers and we've given you all the freedom to explore yourself. So and then we say, okay, we are giving you 2 hours time, now you come out with what best you can. And since there were no impositions and no limitations from us, the students came out with such beautiful stories. It created a culture where you love these things. You create a love for these things. And once that happens, then it just goes on.
Mm.
It just goes on and on.
That's amazing. And I remember the leadership challenge. I used to send my students, and you were the only, I mean, Hilltop was the only school that conducted this particular program. And I feel it's so, so important for students. So, but then here, I have a probing question related to what you just said. So, I mean, just said in the sense, the different practices and the teaching and all. So, if you had to bottle up your teaching style into one single line, like a tweet or a tagline, what would that sound like?
My teaching style was always to keep them engaged and to remain amicable as I keep them engaged. If you're asking me for one liner there, it is
Yes.
keep them excited and to keep them engaged. Stoke the fire. Stoke the fire of curiosity within.
But then, just tell me one thing beyond all techniques and tools, the heart of teaching lies in connection, like you said. And we both know that students carry much more than books, right, when they come to school. So, apart from examinations and activities and all these that you said, students do carry worries, self doubt, silence, right? So, when you see a child struggling emotionally or academically, what is your first instinct as a teacher or a leader? And how do you reach out in those moments?
I've had several, as everybody does, because
Yes.
children are vulnerable and they
Yes.
come with their own share of sensitivities.
Yeah.
So we need to handhold them. We need to empathize. We need to give them. We have to be good listeners.
Mm.
Many people are such preachers that they don't listen. Where is the pain emerging from? Why is there a problem? Is there a pain coming from some insult in a classroom, some insult at home, some broken home situation? Where is the pain emerging from? Why is there an emotional breakdown? Why is there an eruption in a classroom? Why is there even a fight? All these things, we have to be patient listeners. First, listen, identify where the sensitivity lies,
Mm.
and then handhold the child. Take the child along. Give that child smaller goals. You know, a child told me, 10 days I behaved well and nobody said anything. 11th day, I broke control and I did something wrong, and everybody is telling me that I'm a bad person. What about those 10 days when I behaved well?
Mm.
So, everybody needs their share of appreciation. Everybody, I need to understand that here's a child whom I'm trying to counsel and who is trying to be good. But in 10 days' time, in 15 days' time, he breaks control. So
Mm.
that doesn't mean we dismiss his efforts. We dismiss those 10 days of good work.
Yeah.
We reject him. It means that we need to reinforce. Okay, now this time you faltered. Now I'm giving you another goal. If a person is weak in studies, don't expect we introduced an award. I think many schools have that, the Best Endeavor Award,
Mm.
where don't only award a student who is meritorious, but somebody who's made a quantum leap,
Yes.
somebody who was at 15% and made it to 50%. There's a
Yes.
better that he has leapt forward that much than
Yeah.
a person who was scoring 80 and has moved to 85.
Right.
So that is also to be credited, but this also has to be noticed and it has to be. So we used to give them, many
Acknowledged.
schools, this has to be acknowledged. So similarly, when there is an emotional outburst, when there is a student, I had a student who lost his mother to suicide. Now, this child was staying alone with his mother, and he finds his mother in a state like that next day, and he's alone. Though a grown up student of class 11, what, what is that child going through? With the community, asking questions, with the police making, and he's a class 11 student facing it all by himself.
My goodness.
In what state does he come back to school? And what are the rest of the students going to do? As a leader, it is my responsibility not only to give him the kind of support that he needs. Child, we understand. We understand what you're going through. It's not about being curious about what happened to the conditions that happened to the mother. It's more about how are you facing? What help do you need? Don't worry, we are with you. Then preparing the class that here's a student who's coming out of an emotionally turbulent question. Situation. You are not going to ask questions. You are not going to embarrass him. You are not going to, and you are never going to taunt. Help him to face the situation normally. So, preparing the classroom for receiving him, preparing the teachers for receiving him, and preparing the child that you have nothing to worry.
Mm.
Everything is going to be. So, giving him the atmosphere to come back to normalcy, and then asking him when he's alone, calling him over into the office and asking the child when he's alone how he's feeling. See, these are important steps for the head to take, to be sensitive
Absolutely.
and to create that kind of an atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
So we handhold them. whether it is a emotional situation, whether it's an academically weak situation, we
Yes.
handhold them from one situation to the other till we realize that they have gone back to the mainstream of life again.
Great. And this incident that you just said, it reminds me of, I should say, a kind of a tradition or maybe a practice that I started, wherein, we used to identify students over a year making improvements in discipline, right? Because I did not believe in the concept of suspending students, right? So to bring down suspension, I started this, subjective well-being of students. Because I somehow felt when you suspend students, when they come back to school, they come back with greater vengeance, right? So what's the learning at the end of 15-day suspension or suspension for a week also? So at the end of the year, I remember we were able to, so our target was 50. So I never expected to even have 50 students, right, improving over a year. And that was a real project, quite a detailed project for which the class teachers and some of the teachers who were a part of it, they were paid an allowance, at least some kind of an incentive, right? You won't believe at the end of not 1 year, 1 year, 3 months. I remember we started that in the month of March when the academic session started. And we had the following year, we had the felicitation program for the students who showed improvement, not academically. Apart from that, there were 76 students. And I had already taken the budget from the management. And when I had a meeting with the teachers and I told them that we've already taken a budget, so we have to choose or shortlist 50 out of these 76. Believe me, it was the teachers who said that, ma'am, we cannot do that. Please approach the management. Maybe you need to work on a budget again, but then we cannot miss out the rest of the 26 students. So I was really happy that at the end of, say, 15 months, we had 76 students whom we actually rewarded. And the parents, the students, they were all so emotional. The reason being that they could never think of going up the stage and accepting a trophy or a medal or no, we didn't give them trophies, we gave them medals and we gave them certificates. So that particular program, that felicitation program that we had for the students became, kind of an example for the other students. So the other students also, so they also wanted to kind of, start working on their behavior and that was a good practice that we did. So I think there are times when we need to kind of acknowledge the improvement made by the children, like you said, from 15% to 50%. That's indeed really important. So now let's move on to the last section of the last question of the segment. Uh, if the Indian education system walked into your office today and asked for an honest feedback, what would you tell?
I have 2 points to make in this connection. One, uh, first of all, we have too many diverse boards in our country.
Yes.
I find it very surprising that where we have such, in a country where we have such strong foundation and philosophies on education
Mhm.
by people like Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, Vivekananda, J. Krishnamurti, Radha Krishnan,
Yeah.
all of them have given so much information, insight, more than information, insight into what education should be. And they are not very different from one another if you actually read their works. In a country with such a strong foundation, why are we still squabbling over different kinds of board patterns,
Mhm.
and why we are not able to harmonize everything into a proper structure, and why is it that we have to have a separate look at, okay, two major boards in the country, CBSE, ICSE is one thing, but what about the state boards? And look at the number of them. Okay, we talk about regional languages, we talk about the but it is not only the language, even subject wise,
Curriculum.
whatever curriculum that they are executing in every state is not exactly the same. There
Absolutely.
is no way to resolve it. And the education system remains diverse. It
Yeah.
needs a little bit of a structure. It needs a little bit of a syncretism. It needs to
Right.
be synchronized and made into one structure based on the grounds of the philosophies of our past, along with the technology of the future.
Yes.
Why our country, which offers so much, technology to the world,
Hmm.
Indian personnel, whether it be NASA, whether it be Google, whether it be Microsoft, Indian
Hmm.
people are everywhere leading the show.
Absolutely.
So, why is education, which should have been at the forefront of everything, why can't we, sort of combine, collaborate the philosophy of our rich philosophers, their rich
Yes.
philosophy with technology? And this brings me to the second point. We
Right.
are talking about, there was this big rush about smart classes a few years ago. And today there is a big rush about artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Which way are we going?
Right.
Oh, I've done a lot of thinking about all this, reading about all this, about artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact education. People say that artificial intelligence is going to take the world away with it will be a control over human beings, and so on and so forth. Some people even have raised questions like whether it's going to replace teachers.
Never.
The answer is a firm no. The
Never.
answer is a firm no, as you just said, because the vulnerabilities of a student, the sensitivities of a student, that a teacher can address, technology can never do that. And when a 3-year-old child walks into a school, comes in with all his sensitivities and vulnerabilities, technology cannot take over that.
No.
And that's one area technology can never take. However, the point I would like to make is the most techno savvy teacher, although technology cannot replace a teacher, a techno savvy teacher will replace a teacher who is not techno savvy. Even AI as a tool, even AI is a tool. In fact, very interestingly, I asked AI last night. I was
Yeah.
thinking about this podcast, and I put this question to AI. You have chat GPT, so I asked the question that, do you think you, AI, can replace a teacher? AI replied to me, no, I cannot. However, I can be the best tool for a teacher.
Yes. It can
So can I do
assist.
it?
AI
Can
can
assist.
only assist up to a certain extent, depending on the prompts that you give, you provide. But
And
it
it
is
is up to,
right.
like, it's like electricity. You use it, it lights up your world.
Yeah.
You misuse it, it gives you an electric
Gone.
shock.
Yeah. It ruins.
So it's like that. So getting back to the Indian scenario, we are a country that is giving the world its best IT personnel. It is also a country that is giving the best philosophies on education.
Yes.
We need is somebody to integrate into one good structure to give this country a schooling system
Yes.
that a permanent impact that makes a permanent impact. Not that the existing system does not make an impact,
Yes.
it does make an impact, but I would still, it's my dream still to see that so many diverse thinking individuals in this line can be integrated. It's good to be diverse in thoughts. However, we need a structure. We need a structure, and we need to capitalize on all the rich philosophies that we have and
Yes.
integrate it with the technology that to give the children, I think, the best education.
True. And I only hope that it happens because I think we've had a lot of discussions about this, that why do we need so many boards? And especially if a parent gets kind of transferred from one city to another city, from east to west, right? And if that particular child is used to a CBSE school or an ICSE school, and maybe the town or the city where the parent gets transferred to, maybe there are no CBSE schools at all, there are only ICSE schools, then what does the child do then? So it becomes challenging for the children too. So it is very, very necessary. I think a number of times we have discussed this. I mean, quite a few of us, like we've discussed about this, but then I wonder when this will happen. And definitely it's going to be a dream come true if it ever happens during our lifetime. So, Mrs. Chouhan, we've journeyed through stories and classrooms and curveballs, courageous leadership. So now it's time to shift gears. Welcome to our next segment, Chit Chat, our signature rapid fire round. I'll be asking you like 10 questions and you just need to give an answer, short answer. So the first question, one book you believe every school leader should read.
It was about, the philosophy of leadership. Uh, it was a very, very, I think, now I do not even recall that name, but I did read that book and it did set me on the stage for leadership. I read it when I got my first assignment. You can talk about this seven, uh, the seven laws, spiritual laws of success by Deepak Chopra.
Okay,
Seven spiritual laws of success by Deepak Chopra. I think that's something that every leader should read.
wonderful. Great. Okay, we move to the second question. What's your go to strategy for lifting the mood when a class or a meeting starts to lose its spark?
Divert the topic, stop a moment, and crack a joke.
Joke. Good.
Crack a joke. Works
Right.
like nothing else.
I know. Great one. Great, great, great answer. Okay. So the third question. If someone opened the first page of your autobiography, what would they read?
They would read about the journey of a paper boat through a rivulet of life.
Wow. Great answer.
They would, maybe if I were to write an autobiography, I would name it Paper Boat in a Rivulet.
Wow. You should write, Puneeta. You should write. 40
I,
years is 40 years is no joke. No joke. Okay, the fourth question. A teacher from your own school days who still lives rent free in your heart.
oh, there are quite a few. I've had some wonderful teachers. When I was in KG, I had a teacher called Mrs. Brennan, who introduced me to English language and something that I could never get unstuck. I'm still stuck on it. So Mrs. Brennan does not live anymore. God bless her soul in heaven, but I cannot forget her. I cannot forget Mrs. Meera Krishnan, who took me to the higher levels of English in classes 9 and 10. And then we had, surely you know her, Mrs. Rinita Roy, Mrs. Rinky Roy, we called her in college,
Women's College. Yeah, I've heard about her.
women's college. Yes. So she took us through our English honors classes, some of the best English teachers I've had. And
Great.
they held me completely enticed to the language. So you asked for one, I've given you three.
No worries. No worries. Okay, fifth question. We just spoke about AI. So AI is everywhere, right? So what's one thing you believe no technology can ever replace in a teacher? And I know what you're going to say. What's one? We just spoke
Teacher's
about
heart.
it.
Yes. The teacher's heart. The teacher's
Absolutely.
heart when she talks to a
Emotions,
class,
right? Great.
emotions and
Great.
how she is.
Absolutely. This is
honestly.
something I keep telling everybody. They say, "Okay, oh, there'll be a time when where we may not require a teacher in a class." That'll never happen. Never, never happen. Okay, next question.
You will
What's
always, it's
yeah,
as good as saying that you don't need parents to have a child. You
right.
will always need a mother. You will
Always
always
need
need
a
a teacher.
mother. Yeah. As simple as that. Right. Okay, the sixth question. What's harder, tougher? Handling KG giggles or class 12 banter?
Both, oh, both are equally, neither is harder. Both are equally such fun. Recall my days as the principal when I remember one of the days I was out on a corridor walk. And you know how principals walk, some of us, we don't realize hands behind us and then we are walking
I
around.
know.
That's how,
Holding
and then
shoulders.
and then suddenly I felt there was a shadow behind me.
Uh,
So I turned to look, and there was this little thing, maybe a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, doing exactly what I was doing. If I would stop, that child would stop, and he had the hands behind him like this. And when I turned around and I spoke to the kid, and I said, "What is it that is making you do all this?" He says, "I don't understand why you don't let us play at all times. So I'm just watching what you are doing. I would like to come and play at all times."
interesting.
So,
How cute.
and
What a
so
smart, shiny. Huh?
you and I know that a 3-year-old is as lovable as an 18-year-old,
Yeah,
and
true.
they are all innocent. They are all students,
I
and they
swear.
all want a lot of love from
True, true. I swear. I really miss students. I really miss
them.
students. Right. Okay. Let me go to the seventh question, which is interesting. So, if leadership had a soundtrack, what song would you play when you walk into school?
I have a dream.
Wow. Okay. uh, great. And the next question is again interesting. One fictional character you would love to have as a guest teacher in your school.
I can think of Mary Poppins
Okay.
with all her energy, Maria from Sound of Music.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, of
And I
course.
also loved the traditional Sherlock Holmes. You know,
Ah,
the good old Sherlock Holmes, not the modern one. I'm
not
talking
the
about the
modern
good
one. Right.
one. I would love
Wonderful
to have all three of them in the school, and I would love them to bring in different perspectives.
perspective.
In
Right.
one would bring in imagination, another would talk about investigation, and all, in such wonderful, blissful, and in their own character.
Correct. Correct. Great, great answer, Punita. I'm really enjoying. Okay. So, ninth
So am
question.
I.
Okay. Okay. The next question is a compliment from a student that still makes you smile on a tough day.
Okay. Now I had this student. I'll tell you this little incident. Without a
Yeah.
background, it doesn't make sense. I
Right.
had this very, very naughty student who dropped a, a small cracker in my house, in the
Yeah.
garden of my house on Diwali. I I managed my somebody in the staff from my house identified that student as that person as a student, and I called that student and I said that why did you do this? So what do you have against me? I've not had any problems with you. Why have you dropped a cracker in my house? So he said, "Ma'am, just for fun." So I said, "See, anybody could have been hurt." And we made a little joke about it that, see, it could have been hurt. And would you have liked it if I'd come to the next day to the school next day with a burnt nose or something like that? And how much would you have avoided me if I had come like that? So somehow he managed to see some reason in it. And he said, "Yes, ma'am, I think I made a mistake. And I think I won't do such things anymore." When he left school, he gave me a compliment. And the compliment was in the form of a little picture which he had drawn. in which there is a big hand and a small child's hand. And he said, Ma'am, this is you and this is me. Thanks for holding my hand and making a difference in my life. I think I shall be responsible hereafter.
Beautiful.
Now, because he was such a
So
crooked
rewarding.
boy, you feel fulfilled. True, true, true.
So rewarding.
You
Okay.
get compliments from everyone, but these are little special ones.
True. Absolutely true. Okay. So the last question is, what's that one word your students or your teachers would use to describe your secret strength?
I think people spoke they came to me and they had this trust in me because they all thought that I was fair. I would be fair.
Fair.
That was my strength because every morning when I stood in the assembly and I would look at 3,000 students and 120 staff, I would tell God that give me the strength to be fair to each one of them because all of them depend on me for justice. I ought to be fair for the sake of everybody. It is my responsibility.
True.
And I felt happy when I was stepping down and people said, Ma'am, I hope we will get others as fair as you. So I think my strength lay
Fair.
in my fairness,
Impartial.
being
Great.
impartial, just,
Just. Great. Great. So,
able
Puneeta,
to do justice.
you have that's so good. And I really enjoyed all the 10 answers that you gave, and there's so much of learning. So, at the end of the second segment, let me announce that you have officially passed the rapid fire round with flying colors.
Indrani, nice to know that. So am I going to get a hamper of good
Sure,
wishes?
sure, sure. During my next visit to Delhi soon. Okay.
Sure, looking
Uh,
forward.
Right. So, but then before we close today's lounge session, there's just one more door to open. It's a reflective one. It's a little soul searching, and this segment is called My Teaching Mirror. So just close your eyes for a moment and think metaphorically. If your teaching journey could be represented by a metaphor, what would you choose and why?
I see myself just as I see all teachers represented as a flame of hope. Every teacher, and I especially, am a flame of hope for every student. However weak that child might be, for every student, however low that person might feel, I am the light of hope. I am the flame of hope. I can never tell a student that there is no hope for you. I can never tell a student that means I have failed in my responsibility. I am always an eternal flame of hope. Even if I were to die, that flame of hope needs to be kept alive in the heart of the students because if a teacher gives up hope, then
Mm,
there is no hope in the world.
right, there's
So we
darkness.
have to keep trying, we keep trying, we keep trying. And even if today the child is unsuccessful, he has been the worst in his behavior, the weakest in his performance, there will be a tomorrow. And I have to keep that flame of hope alive at all times.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a journey, Vinita. What a journey. What a beautiful example you are, as a leader. And I'm sure the school where you're working now, they are really, really, what should I say? I mean, they're really lucky and fortunate to have you with them. So thank you so much for letting me and my team walk with you for these few moments. Your words remind me as an educator that teaching that teaching isn't just about lessons, it's about legacy. Like you said, that you want to pass it on to the other teachers, the teachers in the communities. The teaching is about, not about lessons, it's about legacy. So thank you, Mrs. Chouhan. Thank you, Puneeta, for such a wonderful time that we had with you. When I say we, it's my team had with you, and I'm sure they will all enjoy when they work on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Indrani. It was lovely talking to you. I found this discussion equally invigorating. It was lovely listening to some of your experiences, and a debate or a discussion of this sort is something that I would love to have anytime and every time with you.
Great. Thank you so much. So, to our listeners, if this conversation lit up a part of you, share it with a fellow educator, teacher, friends, neighbors, because stories like these are meant to be passed on. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned as we continue to celebrate the everyday magic of extraordinary educators. Bye bye.